Do people have questions for Dr. Barth or Carolyn or Carol? Yes.
For Carolyn, the last question you had up on the board was, given what you know and what you've heard, do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's worth it?
Well, we're in the middle of it, so we have to deal with it and make the best of it, I guess.
And I mean, I've been kind of in this, sort of on the periphery of this battle for a couple of years, but seeing your thing just, I mean, it just didn't hit me before, all the stuff that's involved and how evil it is. And I hope we can all say no. I hope New York State can say no.
We did, I'm going to be honest, and it's about circumstances as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have 7 wells drilled within a mile radius of me. When my lease comes up for renewal, if I'm not caught in a production unit, they will ask me if I will re-sign a lease or negotiate a lease. I will not sell my subsurface like I did the first time, but I will be honest with you, because of what's happening, I will sign a lease for one reason. This is what you have to play out the whole picture. Okay, this is what we're doing. More than likely, my water will be contaminated because last month my water already changed a little bit. All right. Claude is 60 years old. Who's going to hire him? If my cows are contaminated, who's going to buy my milk? Who's going to buy the beef that I have to sell or unload? My property will lose at least 80% of the value. What I'm looking at is to negotiate the money so I have enough money to get the hell out of Dodge.
Get out of town.
Because that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I will fight until something happens, and I will fight. But the thing is, I'm not going to put my family in danger, and I have to survive.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to help you guys, so you guys are preparing to survive. We're all going to have to work on this together. I don't know where to move. There's 36 states that are drilling. You know, you guys got to really ask yourself, where's your food source coming from? Texas, they grow all your fruits and your vegetables. You have Wyoming and Colorado that raise a lot of beef. Are you guys going to eat the beef? You don't know where it's coming from. Pennsylvania, dairy products. Are you guys going to do it? Chicken. Mm-hmm. Are you going to eat the eggs and chicken? The community, the consumers have to request and demand regulation on your food source also. And that's going to force the gas industry to step back, because finally your federal government is going to have to come in play.
Looking for people who haven't had 3 questions. Yes.
I was, this is a question for the town board members or supervisors. Just the basic timeline for your zoning amendments. Do you have expectations?
As I said, we're working on it really actively. We're hoping, I mean, we've tried to make timelines because we're trying, to push to the next step, but when we make a timeline, then it becomes a deadline that's failed, and then and so we're doing our best. And as I said, that there's a lot of concern that once there's an SGIS, a supplemental generic environmental impact statement, so that permits can be issued, that changes the legal status somewhat, and so as I said before, I feel confident that we will have gone through this whole process and have something in place before the final SGIS is done. There's the DEC commissioner was quoted a month or so ago saying it's not going to be till sometime farther along in the summer than the June deadline that was originally there. There are several other steps that legally have to be taken before the final SGIS can be issued. So all I can say is that we're well aware, we're watching it, we have that goal very strongly, and we're doing the best we can.
And I think it's very beneficial that these attorneys are working together now, because they've divided the work up, and so each of them were doing some research not only on New York State law but outside of New York State law to really cover all the bases. It sounds like they've finished up at the research part. They're starting to do the writing part, and so that's been partly done by other attorneys. That Slotchie's did a lot of the foundation work for that. So, we're expecting it really any day. So, again, we were expecting it any day before too. So, it's coming soon.
As our attorney reported and gave an update at the last town board meeting, and it's a complex issue, and so they are really, they're doing what they feel they need to do as municipal attorneys to help us have as much information as we possibly can to make the best decision that we can. That's their job.
And above all, we want the legislation to be very sound, very well researched, very well put into place, no holes, because if we're going to be sued on something, this is not unlikely. So we want it to be in really good shape.
And it's not inexpensive.
Yeah.
For me, there's no other way around the explanation for what's going on based on what the two farmers from Pennsylvania have said and what we all fear is coming, that we are being inundated by lawless corporate tyranny. There's no other definition I can come up with for it. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they pollute, they lie about that. They buy people off. They're 10 times richer than any other extraction, any other business in town, so to speak. So they can really ride roughshod over us, and they're just going to. And it doesn't matter how many, whether we watch our water get worse and worse and worse and be able to try and stop them and ultimately have to sell out in order to survive economically. That's not an option I want to exercise. So every single gas well, every single gas industry operation is a truck. It has to run by truck. And we, as citizens, can stop a truck. We can stop a truck. We don't have to do anything illegal to stop a truck, although they're doing things illegal to us. We don't have to do illegal things to them in order to stop a truck. We just have to stand there and stop a truck. And I think the more of us who realize that we, as individuals, have that power over an industry that is going to roll us flat. It is going to roll us flat unless we stand in front of them and say, here and no farther. We've really got to do something, each individual, a room full of 80 people, whatever it is, whatever it takes. We've got to do things that are against the law, that stop them, that get the police here, that get the New York Times here, to get people here. I joined Greenpeace years ago, nonviolent direct action. We can talk about our own regulations and our own little villages and all the rest of it, but they're still going to squeeze around us. The ones that won't cooperate will be just like gone around. If we're really going to stop them, we've got to stop them. We've got to stand there and stop them. And nobody really wants to do that. But I think ultimately we're going to have to ask ourselves, how far are we going to want to go in order to really stop this? And I think we can. Anyway.
Do you know how to stop a truck?
Doesn't sound like it works so well, doesn't there? He'd be busy now by us.
No. How you stop a truck is, that's where the gas industry is affecting our area. The majority of the people are hired. They never operated an 18-wheeler or a triaxle ever before. They are hiring all these people that have sat in IBM or whatever, and they lost their jobs.
Sure.
And now they're operating these trucks, and we are seeing a lot of accidents from that. You get those people to not get their CDL and do not operate for truck driving. Because truck driving, you're right, is moving all of this industry.
Yeah.
They actually
The whole thing is run on trucks.
But that is the biggest demand. That job right there as truckers is one of the biggest demands in our area.
We have got other questions, yes.
I wanted to just first compliment town board people for all the work that you've been doing. It's really excellent. much as after Dan it doesn't sound sexy, I also want to point out that there is a bill in the Assembly to give us another year to put our house in order. And if we could all please write and support that bill, because in the 1-year moratorium that we had, how many well blowouts were there? How many people got killed? How much pollution happened? How many New York Times articles were there? You know, I first learned about this stuff when I was working down in Broome County in 2005, and it's like, what? You know, it took me years before I realized, and I learned new stuff tonight. You know, I think the longer that we can, you know, be careful in going forward on this, the better chance we have to craft those bills, like Liz is saying, that really wouldn't have holes and so on. So we just buy a little more time, and I think we're real close with our state legislature in terms of buying that time. Please call Tom O'Mara. Yeah. The Senate's the place. Call Tom O'Mara. My call to Tom O'Mara this week was about the fact that you can't get a mortgage on your house. I talked about how old we're getting and how big our house is and how we might have to sell it. And gee, can anybody buy it? Because my neighbors have a gas lease.
There's a question behind you.
Yeah, for Dr. Barth, you mentioned about the defining the productive life, depending on your definition of production, of these wells is much shorter, and it's fallen off. I mean, is anybody in the industry starting to rethink the economic analysis of this? I know you mentioned there was that conference up at Cornell where there's some disagreement and controversy within the industry of whether this is worth it or not.
Some people have sent me some insider documents from the industry, and they're being a bit more honest in some of those. So I have seen the industry obviously realizes it. I mean, all you have to do is think again about Pennsylvania and remember the controversy over the imposition of a severance tax. And remember the industry said, well, if we're going to have a severance tax, we need to, they were pushing for not having it taxed for the first few years of production or very low rates for the first few years, and they know very well that's when most of their production is, so that's why they were pushing for that. So the industry is fully aware of that, but they don't want us to know that. And when they hire their economic consultants to do the economic impact studies, of course, it's quite natural for them to want to overestimate what the production will be, because then they'll get better economic impact numbers.
The question at the back.
And investors too like to see that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, a heartfelt thank you to these farmers who, the last couple of years, really it's just been, can't believe how greedy people can be to hurt other people. And you are like two rays of hope that humans can be very, very kind. And thank you for coming and warning us and helping us. And good luck to you.
If anybody has brief questions, only questions. Yes.
It's a question that both of you can answer, because it's about exodus of the population. Several of you, well, you're talking about if your water goes bad, you're going to have to pack up. And I'm also thinking about Cornell, which is a world-class university. There's probably going to be an exodus of faculty and stuff, or that we're not going to be able to attract the faculty. So I'm wondering have your commissioners thought about that, and has Cornell thought about that you know of, Dr. Barr? Is anybody thinking about these population exodus issues?
Go ahead. Well, I've seen it mentioned that there is some concern about people moving out of these areas. Again, the concept of the throwaway community. If your community is a total bust, years down the road, people aren't going to be staying. So yes, the population drain is a concern. Regarding Cornell itself, I'm not with Cornell, and I don't really know where they stand on it. But probably other people in here are with Cornell.
I know.
They're Cornell people in the back.
That point has been made numerous times in various forms at Cornell. People have told the administration, gas drilling comes, we're gonna lose our faculty. We're gonna have trouble finding new faculty. The university itself, the administration has not taken a stand one way or the other on that issue.
Well, I still want to hear about the Bradford County Commissioners. Do they think about this at all in their calculations?
Yeah, we have one commissioner that is concerned.
Is Mark Smith?
Yes. But it took some time.
Arm twisting here.
Yeah, we did work on him for a while now. McClinko, he is one. His partner works for Chesapeake. He has a restaurant as well, and he's not going to talk bad about them because he is doing very well in his restaurant. So, but we have told them, look, if you do not reassess the property value once this water has been contaminated, a lot of these people are looking to leave. You've got to ease the burden so they can stay here. Number two, we are having a problem because like the DuPonts, the Masonites, and those things, they're trying to hire people to work there, and people do not want to move, one, into an area that could become contaminated. One, they also want to own the subsurface. If they cannot borrow money if they don't own the subsurface from the banks. There's all kinds of different issues like that. So I really think that Bradford County, once this is done, I dare to say about 5-10 years from now, it'll be like a dead zone.
There are a lot of
They'll be
people
gone.
that have their houses for sale now. The question that we have in our home is when's the good time to sell if we're going to sell? And, you're going to wait till it plummets. Can you do it now? I was just sharing with Dr. Barth. My husband watches the sales, and he just went to a farm sale a week ago, 140 acres. It was a Kingsley farm. They have wells on their property. They entered into a pipeline agreement. They sold only the surface, and they got almost $4,000 an acre for it. That's without any mineral rights. So someone was just buying the surface. So that is pretty good for right now, and I was really surprised at that. But when is that going to start dropping? Because it's going to start dropping soon.
Yes. A quick question for Carolyn. Would it be possible for you to please make a DVD of your entire presentation? Because I want to buy one, and I want to give it to our assembly person and to our state senator.
She's the type. I would share everything I have.
Are you on YouTube?
There's a couple of places.
We have been on YouTube.
And we are doing,
Right.
I have been reminded that we're doing another presentation in Newfield in June. I think it's June 9th, right?
Okay.
June 10th? Okay. Okay.
Right, so maybe someone can take it then,
Yeah.
if you get your whole 2 hours.
And I will be in Corning the end of June as well.
So Carolyn, is that the whole 2 hours?
I don't know what it is.
Well, I think you had received an email from one of our members, and I think she thought that it sounds terrible to say, whether he feels that his attention span is quite that long.
Oh, yeah. It is overwhelming. We found a lot of people get really overwhelmed at what we do. It's like they go over like that.
You definitely handle more than half hour.
Yeah. We're going to Lebanon, Pennsylvania next week, and we're only being given 15 minutes. So that's going to be that's all they'll give us is 15 minutes to talk.
I do want to share some one story. I do have a lot of farm friends in Bradford County, and there is one guy that owns 500 acres. He is in 4 or 8 production units. Not all 500 acres is in the production units. The royalties you receive sometimes is based on the gas companies, because Talisman is their gas company, and they don't deduct production costs or marketing costs. And that farm is receiving $90,000 a month. Okay. Now another farm that has 200 acres, all 200 acres is in one production unit, and it's a rather smaller production unit, so he should be receiving more money, and he's only getting $300 a month, and that's with Chesapeake.
And the production is equivalent too. We've measured the
Yeah.
rate.
So when you want to measure apples to apples and oranges to oranges, Chesapeake is really not holding up their end of the bargain as far as paying the correct royalties. We're waiting for somebody with a lot of money to sue them to do the the accounting on their on their
On the
books.
books.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be able to get them to give you the accounting of their books, but it's a very expensive procedure. And they say that's how a person can truly find out what, is being deducted.
We did talk to one New York State lawyer, and they have found that on Chesapeake well sites, they are measuring off of 2 meters, and you are getting paid off of 1 meter. The true meter is where they are doing their reports.
Double bucks.
Yep, they're double booking.
Yeah, Judy.
So, you reported to us these horrendous illegal things that are going on. And I guess maybe I'm naive, but why aren't people getting into trouble?
I mean, because it's about money.
Well, I know it's about money, but are there lawsuits? I mean, it's so egregious.
You don't know how difficult it is to take
I guess that's
oil and gas. Right now, I'm involved. My husband's involved in one piece of our property in a lawsuit against Chesapeake, and it's not an easy task. It doesn't take long, and you're talking about probably 6 to 7 years if you take it to full appeal. And for people that are fighting for their water, it can take that long too. So what are you going to do in those 6 to 7 years?
I guess the question that I got from Judy is, why are there not criminal proceedings being brought?
Yeah. That's what
Because
I was
everybody that is an enforcer is in their favor. DEP.
So there is no enforcement of the law.
There's regulation. I've always said that Pennsylvania has a lot of regulations, but it's not enforced. It's just not enforced.
Another thing is, and this is only rumor because people know people in Harrisburg, DEP answers to Mary Jo White, Senator White. Senator White has received tens of thousands of dollars in contributions from the oil and gas companies. She's not going to rub them the wrong way. Corbett, he received, $1.4 million last year from the oil and gas companies. Before when he was Attorney General, and little towns like Ulysses were doing ordinances, he went after those townships. He did not want them to put these ordinances in that would go against the oil and gas company, but they fought back and the townships won. I will tell you, all of your power, the majority of your power is in your townships, municipalities.
Locally, because the state is too hard to handle. Right now we have a piece of legislation in by Scarnati. It's in, and it looks bad because what it does is they put out zoning and then you can't do any zoning above them. So all of the townships can't have anything that's greater than what they do. So they want to regulate zoning on a state level now.
And trade for impact fees that would be issued for every disturbance, but they're only charging $10,000.
That's the impact fee one, yeah.
That was the trade-off.
And that goes to the state.
That is correct.
Yeah, I mean
It's stupid.
when you see the federal government exempt the Marcellus shale and the hydrofracking, you know the fix is in. Money talks.
Yep.
And it's only on the local level where people live here and deal with their neighbors and they care about, their environment that they can do anything.
Yeah.
And even if you go to the state level in Albany, money talks.
Yep, you're
And
right.
it's big money, and it gets bigger when you talk about Wall Street and Washington.
You're right.
And when you deal with mining companies, they're in there to get in, take, rape it, and leave it destitute. They don't care.
Yep.
So when you're dealing with a fox, they're going to take a part of your, arm and leg. No matter, even if you come out with some money, they're going to leave you, crippled.
But it's not only Bradford County or the state of Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
It is the whole nation.
Sure.
And the thing is, it happened in the West for 12 years prior to coming to our area. And now, this is the other thing we do tell in our meetings. Meet the West. We have to work together because we got to put pressure on the federal level, really.
Absolutely.
Your state, you got to go back to the federal level. And I do believe that EPA is going to start stepping in
That's the
soon.
world. Big companies buying off land in Africa real fast.
Yes.
Any other questions? It's getting late. Yeah, John?
I've got one more, and this is just kind of a hypothetical. This is for anybody who might have an answer. What would happen if leases were sold, but there was a ring of properties surrounding that absolutely refused any access in terms of either roads or pipelines? Anybody know the answer to that?
Compulsory obligation?
Can they do that? I mean, I know they can in some circumstances, but
Depends on the size of the unit.
They can drill if they have enough, enough acreage, 60%.
But here's another thing with the pipelines of Pennsylvania. The PUC is looking to regulate pipelines, but we're going to have a trade-off again. If the PUC receives regulation on gathering lines, in return, they will allow the gas companies to issue eminent domain across private property. So, but the thing is, the question we keep on hitting home at is, if the PUC does not control the marketing of the gas, they cannot issue eminent domain on private property because it's not serving the public. And how we know that is if you follow your interstate pipelines, there's a processing plant processing that gas to go overseas. So when they start playing the patriotic little game with us, it's like, you're not patriotic. All you are is about money and greed because you're sending it overseas for the almighty dollar.
Bingo.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank